Hello everyone, welcome to a brand new video of Fox Reacts. Today we're checking out from the Josh Sculpture channel, Top 10 Fallen Heroes. Let's check this out. I'll be honest, I always love this intro because who doesn't just love it? That guitar solo and all of it. Nice. Sometimes it's a little too much and it actually damages the pixels. Here we go.
You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain.
A couple of months back,
Classic.
we covered heroes that didn't quite succeed on their journey. Now we look at the ones who do more than that. Heroes that fall from grace and
Succeed
defect. Let's face it, being a hero can be tough,
well,
and if a
rise
hero doesn't
again.
have the fortitude to maintain their goodwill, they could lose their way and become the very thing they sought to destroy.
that's so negative.
What's the criteria? To start with, they must have a compelling motive, whether it be temptation, misguided morals, or realization that changed their perspective. The
The
deeper
loss
and
of
more
his daughter.
impactful their motives are, the higher they rank. Next, how bad did they turn out in contrast to how good they were? If their actions aren't grave enough to
that's
upset their
something.
goodwill or vice versa, they rank lower than those who do. And lastly, redeemability. Higher points of these heroes
Can
can
they be
never
redeemed?
return to their once good
Or are they
selves,
always
regardless of what
evil?
options are available to them. With all that addressed, let's begin with the top 10 fallen heroes.
Let's do this. Number 10. Oh, damn it, it adds so soon. And we're back. Number 10.
Yep, that's the feature we're looking at here, folks. I'm scared for you.
What?
Okay, so it's not
What the
that
hell did I
bad.
just miss?
It's way worse. Welcome to the world of Lisa the Painful, a post-apocalyptic
Oh.
land where all women have disappeared. Humanity is slowly
Oh.
dying, and porn magazines are considered currency. Okay, you sure this wasn't Spike TV trying to write a melodrama?
What?
Anyways, our story follows
Yeah,
Brad,
that's
a
kind of
former
interesting.
drug addict haunted by his dysfunctional family and the loss of his sister. That's the nicest way I can describe it, believe me.
Ow.
He comes across as what could be the very last female child on Earth and takes her in to protect her from the horrific outside world and be the father he wishes he had.
Aw,
Aw, that's actually
cute.
a noble goal. Maybe this won't be so bad. Yeah,
Bless
no,
it all.
Brad messes up in the worst way. His protective nature becomes overbearing, and he pushes the girl, who he names Buddy, away without even knowing it. Buddy may be the planet's
Oh,
only
no.
hope of repopulating the Earth, but Brad will do anything to keep her safe, including stealing, murdering, or allowing party members to die for the cause. And in the
Holy.
end, he's become the very monster he wished to shield Buddy from. Hey, wait a minute, doesn't this
Oof.
sound familiar?
Holy, it actually...
Yep, it's that crappy ending to The Last of Us all over again.
Oh.
However, unlike that one, where we're supposed to believe that Joel did the right thing by screwing over the entire world, Lisa acknowledges that Brad is a royal mocha. He gets repeatedly called out for his selfishness, and we're shown the consequences of his actions at the end when his party turns against him and Buddy. The one
crap.
shining light left in his life is terrified of him. Now, there's no denying that
man.
Brad had good intentions, wanting to protect a little girl from a world that's gone to the dogs.
Oh,
But he went
boy.
about it all wrong and for the wrong reasons. It felt like he just wanted
This
to
isn't
ease
good.
his guilty conscience rather than being the father figure Buddy needed. I think the only reason Brad's so
Damn.
low on this list is that while his actions were horrific and wrong, he did make
He
at least
kicked
one
Adams.
valid point. The world's
And a
become a
soul.
scary, disgusting, toxic place that no one Buddy's age should ever have to face. Adding to it, they're talking about repopulating the planet with a child.
Yeah.
You see what's wrong with
She's,
this picture now.
she's young.
Sadly, as I said, the road to
That's the
hell is
problem.
paved with good intentions, and I love that this game acknowledges this and doesn't gloss over it. If you can, I definitely recommend picking this game up on Steam. It's super heavy and emotional, but it's not without
Damn,
its
that's
fun
crazy.
moments, so you'll probably get a kick out of it.
More importantly, let's just pray that we never fall into that womanless hellscape.
I can agree
what
with
I
you
do
on
without
that.
Ari.
We need women.
Aw, you're so sweet, honey. But let's not forget who'd probably go first.
Oh,
We know that?
moving on. Number 9.
Choose your own adventure type games are no stranger to
Oh,
letting
this
you
is,
pick the
Life
paths
is
of black,
Strange.
white, or gray. Most of the time, though, it's either a linear sequence of events or very specific scenarios set
Detroit
by
Become
very
Human.
specific decisions. But then there are those games that put so much effort in their evil route that it completely sets its own precedence within the game. Undertale's genocide route is one such case. At first glance, Frisk seems like your typical silent protagonist who serves as the player insert that you name and play around with. But once you learn how Undertale operates, you realize Frisk isn't just any self-insert. They're literally a projection of your decisions. If you play Undertale for the first time, chances are you don't know a thing about the genocide route. Even if you kill all enemies and bosses you meet, you only get a neutral bad ending at worst. It's not unless you thought, hey, maybe I should grind to get stronger. But then you'll start to really see what sort of mistake you made. You don't encounter...
Yeah, he's actually right. If you're just going about your business, only killing what you run into, you will get the neutral route. But if you're like, I will become the strongest, and just decide to wipe out everything, yeah, you done fucked up.
Enemies anymore, and when you fight Toriel, you absolutely destroy her. Any rational person would pull back while they can and try to fix whatever mistake they made on their journey. Even going through pacifist at some point and getting a perfectly happy ending. But even with that said, the prospect of killing everyone in the game might linger in your head. So you hit reset and go out of your way to grind, kill everyone in your path, including Papyrus.
Oh no, not Papyrus, not the Skeleton!
As you do this, two major obstacles stand in your way. Undyne the Undying and Sans. Ridiculously hard bosses that serve as a warning that you've made a terrible mistake. But you know, people who like playing hard games usually like this sort of challenge, so hey, what's really stopping them from dusting these two away? So if those warnings don't falter you and you finish your little conquest, you'll successfully wipe out the entirety of the underground. What's that?
That's it?
Not satisfied with what you got? Well, you can always beg for another chance to play the game and return to your good ending as if nothing happened.
Yeah, except...
Or did it? Genocide Frisk puts into perspective of how far someone would go to see what consequences their actions can bring. You can play the game normally and get a satisfying bookender, or you could throw it all away for a violent journey of self-fulfillment. The game really goes out of its way to make the route as tedious and unenjoyable as possible to tell you that you shouldn't do this, but the option is there, and all it takes is a dose of curiosity and temptation to push someone onto that path. Should you choose to finish that arduous walk, I hope you won't regret it, because once everything's gone,
since when were you the one in control? Oh, damn it, folks, we got another ad incoming. Hold on. Well, back from the ad break. Moving on to number 8.
I'm a fraud. I'm a monster!
It's the law of the video game jungle. You're the playable character. You're the hero. So everything you do is for the greater good, right? Well, that's what we wish it was like. But in the real world, trying to be the big brave hero could make it worse, especially if you're unable to listen to any logic or choice that doesn't follow your little ego trip. Unfortunately, Captain Walker from Spec Ops: The Line learned this in the worst possible way. It was supposed to be a simple in-and-out mission. Fly into Dubai, look for survivors, call for an extraction team, and bail out of there. However, Walker decides to ignore orders and urges the team to press forward, hoping to find even more survivors and Conrad, a fellow soldier that saved his life once. Wow, what a brave hero, willing to go above and beyond to help those who need it most. At least, that's how it appears at first.
That's how it appears.
But down the line, things increasingly grow from bad to worse. Dozens of innocent people, including fellow soldiers, are dying or dead, and all of Dubai is falling apart. And it looks like Conrad is the one pulling all the strings. But Walker isn't deterred. He can't give up now. This is something beyond his control. It's gotta be Conrad. Yeah, Conrad is the maniac causing all this. I'm the hero, right? Right?
Hero
Wait a minute, Patrick. I'm the maniac.
Boom, there it is.
No, Conrad had nothing to do with this. Conrad had been dead the whole game. All his cryptic messages to Walker were just hallucinations. More than half the game was just an illusion. In reality, Walker wasn't helping anyone. He got all those people killed. He doomed all of Dubai while he was trapped in his own little world, convinced that everyone else was the villain. And yet, at the end of it all, Walker still has one last chance. He can surrender himself and come quietly. He can continue his bloody crusade and make things worse than they already are. Or he could put an end to his suffering for good. It's really all up to the player at this point, but whatever you choose, there was never going to be a happy ending.
In is the only options I see.
Who said I did?
This was a horrific
Captain
deconstruction of
Walpole.
the hero complex. You'd expect
Told
such
you, hero
determination
complex.
and courage to be a good thing, but the fact is, Walker had no business being there. He could have and should have stopped at any time and just gone home like he was
And
ordered
now,
to.
see, he should've
Instead,
just left.
he dug himself in a deeper hole and tried to justify all his atrocities by pinning the blame on literally everyone else, including a dead man. In
Yep.
the end, it was never about Conrad or saving people. He was just an arrogant punk convinced he was something he's not.
Yeah,
The truth,
yep.
Walker, is that you're here because you wanted to feel like something you're not. A
He
hero.
wanted to be a hero.
It's dark,
And
it's
until
twisted, it
he was
deviates
the
from the
villain
norm,
from the very
and
start.
I love it. It was a bold move for Spec Ops to challenge the status quo for an FPS despite not being one. Unfortunately, not everyone could be the hero in their own story. And if they
Not
allow their
exactly
pride to be in the driver's
FPS,
seat
but
too
it was
long,
like an over
they
the
risk
shoulder
becoming
FPS.
the monster they sought to destroy. Kinda makes you think twice about picking up a controller, don't you think?
In some games, but I was never even a fan of those types of games. Now on to number 7.
Morality is a fascinating topic. Thou shalt not murder has been a cornerstone of morality for almost all of human history. In other cases,
still
what
have
is moral
morals,
and
though.
just changes over time. Whaling, or the act of hunting whales for their meat and blubber, used to be a necessity for daily life, and the
Used to
sailors who
be.
risked their lives doing so were held in good regard. These days, whaling
Used to
is
be, but
outlawed
now
in
it's
most of the
not even
world.
needed.
Speaking of morality with a more ecological bent, John Bison was
Oh,
born in the
John
1820s,
Bison.
which coincidentally was right around the height of the whaling industry. That should give you
Oh.
some insight into the morality of the time. Things like overhunting and ecological preservation weren't words anyone had heard of. The only things that mattered were providing for yourself and or your family and taming the
Just
unsettled
live and
frontier.
provide
John Bison was
for
a
all
young
you
man
can.
when gold fever swept the North Americas in 1852. He set out to make his fortune like so many others did at the time. Unfortunately for
Oh.
Bison, he decided to blow up the side of a mountain and got himself
Oh,
buried
there it
and
is.
flash frozen for his recklessness. Thanks to the power of video games, instead of instant death, the freeze put Bison in suspended animation, where he awoke
Yep.
about 150 years later after de-thawing.
Instead of
Mandy
being-
said that eventually
Whoa,
he'll get
what the-
future shock and he won't be able to handle the unfamiliar sights and sounds of a time 30,000 years into the future.
Oh,
and then
yeah.
eventually,
I think I remember this
and
episode.
go on an uncontrollable rampage.
It's hard to imagine what kind
Huh.
of culture shock you might experience from suddenly finding yourself 150 years in the future. Going from an age where dancing was considered of the devil to the early 2000s,
Wait,
is it any
what?
surprise Bison coped at the shock by becoming set in his
Dancing
ways?
was-
Bison became obsessed
Huh.
with taming
Okay,
the
that's
wild north and
interesting.
worked hard to clear cut as many trees as he could in the name of progress. In the
All while
1850s, the
doing
work
it
he and
with
his
the
men did would be the
clockwork
stuff of
talents.
legends. In the early 2000s, he was an environmentalist's worst nightmare. Despite how tragic
he was a
Bison's tale
beast.
is and how his fall from grace happened, there's a reason he's only number 7 on the list. After the Cooper gang, most prominently Bentley, beat all the stuffing out of him and destroyed the Claw gang, Bison ended up
That was
working
it?
for the EPA of all organizations.
Yeah, look at
Where
that.
he ended up deep frozen once more after saving a group of baby
Yeah,
penguins.
and was frozen
Some
again.
guys just can't catch a
Bless it
break, am
all.
I right?
Stay out of the damn ice, you idiot. On to number 6. Oh, damn it, Adam. Well, back with number 6.
So, who wants some anime BS? Anyone? Oh, come on. I know what my audiences is like.
I
Yeah,
do.
you in the back? Yeah, you with the Evangelion t-shirt?
Oh,
You know who you are?
I never watched that.
You know who you are.
With Xenoblade 3 on the horizon, I figured it's a good time to look
Oh,
back on
this
some
is
previous
why.
Xenoblade games
Okay.
and see the fun stuff for those. While people bashing for anime and poor voice direction, it's still a very
I never
solid
played
RPG
any
that
of
does a
those.
lot of things great and even better than Xenoblade 1 in some cases. And the story is one of those great things, with one of the focuses being on the leader of Torna, Jin. Jin, despite being a villain,
Jin.
goes from being malicious to empathetic and back at multiple points of the game. In the first dungeon, he's playable, but you learn he can move super
Evil,
fast and he just
good to
kills Rex
evil,
without any
good.
prompting.
Back to evil.
Stop cheering, Xenoblade 2 players who didn't get past the first dungeon. He survives.
Oh, look
And
at
later,
that.
he joins your party again temporarily, doesn't stab you in the back this time, and actually helps
that's
you
good.
by telling his team not to blast you with an airship. Thanks. So yeah, he's a little
Yeah,
topsy in
thanks, I
terms of
guess.
motivation. What is his ultimate goal, and what happened to him? Well, to answer
Yeah,
that,
what the
we
hell
need to go
did
back in
happen?
time 500 years. Jin originally
there we
was
go.
known as the Paragon of Torna. He was a hero alongside his driver Ornelia, who fought for their country's independence and saved villages along the way. When
Oh,
Ornelia
boy.
died, though, Jin, as all blades do, reverted back into a core crystal and had to wait for a new driver. That driver eventually came in the form of Laura, a 10-year-old girl who resonated with Jin accidentally. After Jin saved her from a mercenary who wanted to kill her to get Jin back, Laura officially became Jin's driver, and the two of them traveled the world. They eventually met the
this is
hero
actually
of this
pretty
time
good.
period, Adam, and his blade Mithra, and joined their group. After working together to defeat the evil Aegis Malos, Jin and Laura were caught up in an attack by Malos' driver Amalthus, who wanted to kill Mithra and Malos once and for all. This attack mortally
good.
wounds Laura. Knowing Jin is about to be returned to a core crystal, Laura is saddened that he will lose his memories of her and everything they shared. Jin, however,
that's actually
knew of a way
sweet.
to save himself. He told Laura and she agreed to it. This unfortunately required Jin to eat Laura's heart and become a blade known as a flesh eater, which will allow him to live without a driver. Oh heavens, the
now.
attack killed many Tornans who Jin had been protecting for years. It almost wiped out the entire civilization. Between
Damn.
this and Laura's death, Jin became apathetic towards humans as the years went on and even
see
started
now.
to hate them. He wanted all humans and the architect who created them to die in retribution to the sins they themselves made. After having
I
a
can
hand
get
reached out by
behind that.
Malos to him, they created the organization Torna, named after the fallen country, to kill the architect and end the world. Despite his attitude shift, Jin is more of a
I can actually see
neutral
behind that
evil, if
mission.
anything. He kills for the sake of his own goals and has no regrets doing so. However, he isn't
An
above
anti-hero.
working with enemies if the situation calls for it. By the end of the game, he really doesn't hate Rex and his team, only really stopping them because they're in the way of his goal. At the very end, he sacrifices
isn't,
himself to
so
kill
much as a
Amalthus,
fallen
who has
hero,
at this
but more
point
of an
betrayed Rex after
anti-hero.
being an ally earlier. Whether
Oh,
he
wait,
is
maybe
doing
that
this
is
to
a
save
fallen
Rex
hero.
and his friends or for revenge
Oh,
for
well.
Laura is anyone's guess. Either way, he dies as someone who still lives up to the hero he once was and with the convictions he's always had.
Respectful.
He is lower because he kind of redeems himself by the end, but it doesn't lessen the impact of the deeds he did. And there are
He
plenty
did
of
still
dark
kill
things
people.
he did that I did not mention. But despite that, Jin is a great example of a fallen hero, and we still have plenty of examples to go by.
I'll give him respect. Here we go. On to number 5.
Villains in the Tales series tend to be of the sympathetic variety. Oftentimes there'll be a character with genuinely heroic goals that's going about them in the wrong way.
Why can you not accept the
right
ideal
goal,
world that I have
the wrong
envisioned?
path.
How can your world be ideal when you have killed countless innocent people?
And nowhere is this more evident
There
than
we
with
go.
Tales of Berseria's villain, Artorias Colbrand. When the story
Artorias.
begins, however, Artorias
Huh.
is the farthest thing from a villain you could think of. He's the stepbrother
Look at that.
slash mentor
Another
figure to the
Artorias.
protagonist Velvet, who wouldn't hurt a fly. Then he kills Laphicet and leaves
Ooh.
Velvet to rot in prison for 3 years.
What an asshole!
Years later, we
Thank you,
learned that
Gilbert.
Artorias is now the Shepherd. He's the leader of the Abbey, an organization that controls most of the world and is worshipped as a hero. His plan is to rid the world of its emotion and free will. Now, if you
Okay, hold on. Am I the only one seeing how this Arcturus is literally like Arcturus Minx of StarCraft? Like, hello?
haven't played Berseria, you're probably thinking, wow, what a one-dimensional villain. And for most of the game, that's what Velvet and the party think. Then in classic Tales fashion, we learned that things are far more complicated. As it turns out, Artorias had quite the unfortunate background before the game's events began.
Like what?
Initially depressed after his father's passing, things seemed to be looking up when he met Celica. Then his village decided to sell him out and let her die during the Scarlet Night. With
Damn.
all this in mind, Artorias began to suppress his emotions. He wasn't trying to take away the world's free will because he wanted to control others. He did it because he legitimately thought his actions were justified. In his mind, emotions are something that he suffered from. Why should others
Okay.
have to do the same? While it obviously doesn't
That's
justify
actually
his
not too
actions,
bad.
he can legitimately see how he acquired his mindset and why he believes that people would be better off without feelings.
I
What's
see
all
now.
JRPG villains that trying to create worlds without emotion or existence?
That is kind of a strange thing. Like, why is no emotion? Oh, okay, hold on, here we go. On to number 4.
Alright, looks like we got another JRPG boss. Bet it's gonna be another weird one. They always are.
Can
Let's
we
see.
have Cloud's lover? Which one? The one people want to bang.
But Cloud doesn't. Oh right, Sephiroth.
Wait, what?
Weird is relative.
Yeah, the Oedipus Complex Kingpin of Midgar, Sephiroth, comes full force with the mother of fallen hero backstories. Okay, not really mother.
He is
sort of. It's actually pretty simple compared to some of the others, but I digress. Growing up, Sephiroth was born to Professor Hojo and Lucretia Crescent, assistants to Professor Gast working for Shinra. Anyone knows the name knows Sephiroth had a worse childhood than Homelander. While he was being developed within Lucretia, Hojo implanted Genova cells into her to try and make Sephiroth into an ancient. Too bad Genova wasn't an ancient, she was an alien. And Sephiroth didn't grow up into an ancient, he grew up as the greatest soldier in history. During the Wutai War, Sephiroth obtained worldwide fame as a war hero with unrivaled strength, even among the other first-class soldiers. He was chivalrous, powerful, and charismatic.
He was
so much so that it inspired many young men, like our blonde spiky hero, to join Soldier. During the Nibelheim mission with Cloud and Zack, though, Sephiroth learned the truth of the experimentations of his youth. This led him not to hate just Shinra, but humanity as a whole. Despite being born to Lucretia, the Genova cells that merged with him as a baby made him as alien as he was human. This warping of his soul led him to become strong, but also detached from his humanity when he learned the truth. Of course, you know the rest. He massacred the entire population of Nibelheim, save Cloud, Tifa, and Zack, and was eventually defeated and dropped into the planet's core by Cloud. The embodiment of Genova went around acting as Sephiroth, tormenting Cloud and leading him to the northern crater to give him Meteor. Cloud got his memories back, confronted by the body of Sephiroth in the northern crater, and killed him in an epic sword clash. And that was the end of him, until Kingdom Hearts 1, and Kingdom Hearts 2, and Advent Children, and Dissidia, and Smash Bros. Ultimate, and then Final Fantasy VII Remake, where he was finally killed. Never mind, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is coming out next year, and so is a Crisis Core Remaster. So, what's the timeline looking like? Sephiroth's overall backstory might not be as complicated as others on this list, but there's no denying his impact on the world. He went from being the ultimate hero of the Final Fantasy VII universe to the most famous villain in JRPG history.
Oh yeah,
even my Kefka-loving heart can't deny that fully. There was a reason his voice actors also played Superman. He practically was him before he went all cuckoo for Genova puffs. Part of a regularly balanced breakfast. Not recommended for test tube babies. May cause fits of rage, Oedipus complexes, and giant flames appearing behind you at random intervals.
Oh boy, that ain't good. Sephiroth! That's stupid. Here we are to number 3, and we have another ad. God bless it. And we're back.
While the original Borderlands had more than enough guns, it did not have a very compelling villain. Commandant Steele just kind of barges her way into the story and barely does anything. She dies in the scene where you finally meet her in person. Borderlands 2 more than made up for Steele with the introduction of Handsome Jack. As the president of Hyperion, Jack's goal is to clean up the filth of Pandora and lead it in a new direction.
Wait.
Unfortunately for everyone else,
we only meet him in Borderlands 2? I thought you... Strange. I honestly thought he was in Borderlands 1 as well. Guess I'm wrong.
His idea of cleaning up is killing everyone who remotely disagrees with him and ruling it with an iron fist. He has an ego bigger than his bank account and legitimately believes he's the good guy, making him that much more hateable. Every time he calls you, he's constantly taunting you about how insignificant you are and how you have no chance of ever beating him. And just when you thought he wasn't despicable enough, he kills Roland, one of the playable characters from the original. Thus, it's all the more satisfying when you finally kill him and save Pandora. How in the world do you take a character like Jack and give him a sympathetic backstory? Well, make Borderlands the pre-sequel, that's how. Said game tells the story of Jack's rise to power. When you first meet him, he's a surprisingly friendly guy with nothing but legitimately heroic motives. He's not trying to defeat the Lost Legion to make himself look good. He's doing it because he legitimately wants to save the people of Elpis. He's even willing to stay on Helios and fight all by his lonesome while the others get help. Unfortunately, his actions get harder and harder to justify as the game goes on. Him killing the Marif? Understandable. He shot Jack first when his back was turned. Wiping Felicity's brain after she had just been granted freedom?
Like, as it goes on, we see him become a villain. We help him become a villain.
Incredibly callous, but Jack was right in that they had no time to back her up, and the people of Elpis had suffered enough. Him killing the scientists because they might betray him later?
That's no good.
While
Oh,
it
come on.
is true
Even that
that
one didn't
Jack
need to
had been
happen.
duped before, there's no justification for him to kill 4 innocent people. This all comes to head when he's betrayed by the others. Talk about a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Great.
That, combined with the whole vault thing, causes him to solidify his turn as Handsome Jack. Knowing all this makes his actions
look
in
at
2
his face,
come
you
across
see he's
as
wearing a
that
mask.
much worse. And that thing he said about him having to lock up Angel because she killed her mother, he was telling the truth. As revealed in Borderlands 3, she
See?
accidentally murdered her by taking control of a turret after a bandit attacked them.
And
While
boom.
Jack ultimately did use Angel as a tool to further his own goals, it didn't start out that way.
See?
And beneath all the horrible things he's done, he still legitimately believes he's a good
there it
guy.
is.
Just
That's
look what
why he
happens
has
when you
the
actually
mask.
let him go off on you after the final boss.
See, I could have saved this planet. See, I could have actually restored order.
And while Jack has no right to claim any of this, he's
Oh,
not
yeah?
completely wrong. Pandora is a horrifically dangerous wasteland. Not
True.
all of the good guys are completely heroic, and Hyperion City was one of the only safe areas to live in. In an ideal
Oh,
world,
look at that. It
Jack
was safe.
could have been the hero he claimed to be. Just goes to show how a single bad decision can royally screw someone over.
To be honest, he probably could have been probably one of the best heroes. On to number 2.
Live Alive. Some of you may have heard this game from a few YouTubers with their own sturdy following, or from the remaster in
Not
recent
really.
time. An interesting once-buried RPG where you play as the protagonists from different eras and defeat the adversaries present in those times.
Oh,
Feudal
that's
Japan,
cute.
Wild West, Distant Future, etc. Those of you who know about the game well enough should know
Why
where
does
this
this
is
remind
going.
me of,
If not,
Chrono
I
Trigger?
may advise that you give the game or its remaster your own experience before proceeding. Skip here to number 1 if you must avoid spoilers. Good,
Nah.
good. Moving on, once you completed all of the
skipping.
base stories, you unlock the final one, the tale of a knight in the Middle Ages. This is Ersted, a knight who fought in the royal tournament for the honor of marrying the kingdom's princess, Alicia. He's
Yes.
accompanied by his best friend Strabo, who also wanted the honor of taking Alicia's hand in marriage. They both reached the finals where they had to fight each other, but the fortune of having superior strength didn't come to Strabo.
Boom.
Ersted takes the victory, and the princess's love is all his. Things are
Oh,
turning
yeah.
up well for our knight.
all
He gets
he
to live in the
needed.
castle with the love of his life, and the people of the kingdom adore him all the same.
He
But
becomes
then,
the next king.
conflict strikes. Alicia gets abducted by the
No,
Demon King,
no.
and Ersted was sent on a quest to rescue her, accompanied by several allies, including Strabo himself.
Huh.
Unfortunately, the journey they took cost
Strabo.
Strabo his life, and Ersted, hitting a dead end, had to retreat and rest. It's then
Oh,
when the demon's
no.
plan is put into motion.
Oh,
Ersted
crap.
is misguided into killing what he thinks is the Demon Lord, only for it to be his king. He was set up
No.
for treason, and everyone believes he's the demon trying to lay waste to their land.
No,
At this
stop.
point, he's become a fugitive, running away from the society that began to revere him so much. It all seems so dire for our poor knight. It's not
Oh,
until he
man.
remembers what his fallen allies told him. As long as there's still someone out there who believes in him, he must not lose hope. And lose hope he does not. Clinging to the love he has for Alicia, he pushes onward to the Demon
Let's
King's
go.
summit. There he finds Strabo. It's revealed that
Strabo?
he's been studying the ways of the Demon King and plans to take Alicia for himself,
No.
upstaging Ersted and destroying everything he worked so hard to gain.
Hold on. A knight who earns the love of the crown princess, but gets her taken away from him by a former ally who frames him for regicide.
Yes.
Sigurd, is that you?
I don't
Of
know
course,
that.
unlike Sigurd, you actually do get your chance to beat Not Arvis senseless and at long last claim your happy ending. Alicia
Yes.
comes out of hiding and expresses her disdain for Ersted's negligence.
What?
She's more grateful for Strabo for coming to her rescue, and now that he's dead,
Wait, what? Oh god, she killed herself! No! She just Romeo and Juliet!
the one person Ersted still held hope for lost faith in him. Having no one left to turn to
No.
and nothing left to believe in, the pressure finally sank into Ersted's mind and he snapped.
Oh,
The once noble
no.
and beloved hero has now submitted himself to this new destiny as the Demon King.
Oh, damn. He tried to save
I
that
believe you owe me an
and
apology.
then
Yeah, I
Tom
really do.
became
For
the
context,
Demon
each
Lord.
story of the game features some form of the Demon King audio. He resembles the ultimate antithesis that each main character faces at the end of their journey. You can even see it in the names. So the antithesis to Ersted's story is himself. Odio's name literally rests in his own. So with his life ruined and only a path to darkness left to tread, what's next for our fallen knight? Well, to demonstrate the folly of humanity's selfishness, he seeks to destroy all...
Oh wait, look! Even the statues here, all of the other forms. Look, that was the gun guy. A shonen monk.
Hope that remains, not just in his time, but others as well. Hence, he pulls the heroes of the other eras to his time and invites them for a lesson in despair. It's up to these heroes to put a stop to Ersted's reign of terror, or all of humanity across time is doomed. There are several outcomes you can get in the final chapter, but no matter which one you take, nothing's ever gonna bring a smile back to Ersted's face. If you play as the heroes, you put him down for good, and he dies never knowing retribution. You let him beat you, he'll activate Armageddon, which fulfills his destiny of wiping out everything that ever was and will be. If you play as him, though, you get something a bit different. Ersted will control every variation of Odio across the eras and have him beat the stuffing out of every single hero, thus destroying the hopes of those times more personally. Once everything is done, all of humanity perishes, and Ersted lives the rest of his life facing the results of his actions. His home kingdom, once teeming with life and voice, becomes desolate and quiet. The knight can only stand and embrace the bleak reality he wrought upon himself.
Dark.
Man, all this darkness and hardly a room to keep him in.
For some people, Ersted is the definitive fallen hero, and it's not hard to see why. His story is not only really depressing, but it's also relatable. We experience just how much he loses and how easily it can cause someone to give up their goodwill. And even after turning evil, inflicting misery on others still couldn't satisfy him. It's like he said, anyone can become the Demon King. No matter who the person is, even if they have the goodwill of a saint, it's best to take into caution that enough hate, misery, and self-indulgence can turn all of that around.
Oh, damn it, another ad. Well, we're back, and after all that darkness, I think it's time for us to go and see the honorable mentions. I always forget about
Wheatley from Portal 2. He didn't know that plugging himself in would turn him into GLaDOS, but still a moron. Aiden from Diablo. Surely there was a better way to contain Diablo than shoving it into your head. Xehanort, Kingdom Hearts Birthright Sleep. We're all Xehanort, and literally the cause of every problem. Siegfried, Soul Calibur. Why do people look at the sword with eyeballs and think it's totally safe? Same reason Patroclus let the pretty sword lady tell him to kill his sister.
Because good is dumb.
Dr. Octopus and Superman. Don't get me wrong, both their fallen hero stories are fantastically written, but they both suffer from the same problem. I guess like the comic books gave them a bit of a crutch.
Yeah, bit of a shame. And here we go, on to number 1. If I can correctly guess right, Sigma from Mega Man.
A fallen hero from a Blizzard game. And not the only one either. There are quite a few to the point where the irony is almost too sad to be funny.
Ooh,
I mean, we all know the obvious joke here. I mean, Blizzard falling hard.
But we're not here to talk about them.
Yes.
No, we're here to discuss arguably one of their best characters, Arthas Menethil from World of Warcraft.
Damn it.
Once upon a time, Arthas was the Prince of Lordaeron with dreams of becoming a hero. To accomplish that dream, he vowed to save his kingdom from the icy grip of the plague of undeath. But no matter what he tried, nothing could stop the epidemic, and he ends up making the biggest mistake of his life. He steals the cursed sword of Frostmourne, hoping to use its power to smite the Plaguebringer, but is slowly corrupted by the blade's dark influence, twisting and molding him into the Dark Lord of the Dead, the Lich King. Gone are his heroic ambitions. Gone is his dedication to helping his people, and gone is any hope of ending the plague. Instead, the Lich King now desires to use the plague to turn anyone in his path into his undead slaves to follow him on his new quest, complete domination of Azeroth. Wait a minute, haven't we seen this somewhere before?
Oh.
Yep,
oh.
I've said it before, I'll say it in the future,
Yeah,
and I'm saying it now. Arthas' story is eerily parallel to Darth Vader's. Two idealistic heroes in the making slowly end up succumbing to the dark side before being transformed into the iconic villainous symbols of their respective franchises.
And there it is.
But while Anakin Skywalker was seduced by the dark side, and was really kind of gullible to be honest, Arthas fell into evil unintentionally. At his core, Arthas' heart was in the right place, wanting to rid his people of this terrible affliction. But that doesn't give him a pass.
So
he still did a lot of horrible stuff. Even before he stole Frostmourne, he thought committing mass genocide on the city of Stratholme would stop the plague spread, an infamous event now known as the Culling of Stratholme. It was an atrocity, no questions asked, but here's the thing. He didn't do it for the fun of it. He didn't do it for revenge. He did it because he was desperate. He put so much pressure on himself to try and stop the epidemic because he genuinely cared for the afflicted. It's like the old saying goes,
desperate times call for desperate desperateness.
Okay, that was a paraphrase, but my point still stands. Arthas' story is nothing less than tragic, wanting to do right by his people, only to unexpectedly trip and fall into the depths of pure darkness. I think that alone earns him the number 1 spot.
He tried to do right by his people and fell into the darkness.
I'm your Scorcher, and poor Square Enix, you fell too.
Alright folks, and that is what we're gonna end off today's video. So, I want you all to remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Down in the description will be a link to the original videos. Remember to support the original creator and all they do, and I'll see all of you folks next time. Peace out.